So if you're looking for something to invest into, it's so obvious to go back to the older stuff, early Scarlet and Violet, like I've talked about, like Paldea Evolved, even Scarlet and Violet Base, like those buys in Scarlet and Violet seem to be safer than the newer stuff because the reprint, window is pretty small now. A lot of those have already gotten reprinted, so those just seem like safer options. Obviously, you can go back to Sword and Shield, but I've talked about this. I made I think, one video talking about Journey Together and how it may be a sleeper play. And I really truly believe this. And I really do feel like Journey Together's hate really just stems from its timing and when it came out in the market, and how when you compare this set to the other sets that's recently been released, it's kind of, obvious then why it's been sort of, you could say, a flop. So I wanted to read this post to give you guys a little bit, I guess, of an idea of, I guess, this person's perspective, which I sort of want to build on here. So let's just read what this person has to say. So the title is Journey Together's Revisionism in Years' Time. So Journey Together will replace Paldea Evolved. Now, I don't know about that one. I'm not going to say, Journey Together is going to replace Paldea Evolved. Like, I'm not, extending that far. But I think Journey Together will perform pretty good. But to say it's going to replace Paldea Evolved, I do not agree with, because Paldea Evolved has, one of the most iconic cards in this era. Journey Together doesn't at all, so I don't agree with that. But both, upon release, deemed garbage sets. That's true. Paldea Evolved was not seen to be a good set. It was like $90 at one point, and people didn't really care for it. Sort of the same thing here with Journey Together. Came out, seems like not really many people care about it. Both, when looking at, are objectively not so bad. Both have one chase card, although in Journey Together's case, I think as the set nears the end of its print run, people will start to see the Salamence and Zoroark in a brighter light. I don't see what's changed in Paldea Evolved's case, besides a huge hype bubble at the end of its print run. The Magikarp was popular upon release. That is nothing new. Over time, I think people will ease up to Journey Together and see it as not a bad set. It just released in a rough time. Prismatic Evolutions was running rampant with God packs and $1,000 cards. The next set, of course, had to continue that momentum, but what can live up to Prismatic, to what has Prismatic has produced? So naturally, it was fairly shunned. I would pick up PC ETBs in the regular booster boxes as the rumor, and those ones won't be getting reprinted. And they're talking about the regular booster boxes, which I guess they're talking about the regular ones without the enhanced feature. Those aren't getting reprinted. I actually heard the opposite. But this is just, I guess, a little bit of somebody's insight into Journey Together and how they believe it is sort of overlooked, like myself. So I guess, I want to build on that and explain, Journey Together, and especially why it seems like this set is bad. So you guys have probably seen a lot of negative sentiment around Journey Together, right? It's not really a super popular set. People don't talk about it as much as Prismatic or Destined Rivals, and definitely people don't get mad as much with the set because it's not really heavily scalped at all, because you can't really make much money. I mean, if you bought an ETB at MSRP like $50 right now, market price is like 70. You're not really making much, compared to like Prismatic. You can buy an ETB for $50 and then sell it for like 100. So yeah, the money's not really there for Journey Together to scalp, and that's not why it's not really getting talked about much. But Journey Together really, I think, is overhated for no reason, because it literally has just come out in the wrong time. There's so many other sets out there I can compare to where they performed pretty well. And in my opinion, Journey Together is a better set than those. And just overall, I think people are really forgetting this big thing with Journey Together, that I believe, regardless of what happens with reprints, when this goes out of print, it's going to be a good box to have. Now, I feel like another part of Journey Together that may be why some people aren't investing into it right now is maybe the scare of possible reprints. Let's say they do reprint, the enhanced feature. I've talked about how if they don't, obviously this booster box then would be pretty valuable. but I think people are scared that possibly, since the demand is not really high right now, if they reprint it with the enhanced feature, possibly prices may drop a good amount, and that's very possible. But like I said, long term, I really feel like having some of these enhanced booster boxes are going to be great. And right now in this market, you can find these booster boxes, especially locally, for under $200 pretty easily. And I feel like if you can get these near MSRP, which I think isn't impossible, you could probably find these in the 170s, 180s. I honestly think they're pretty good pickups. And I just want to show you guys here, just the set, right? And compared to a few other sets previously that have been released that have performed extremely well, but they don't seem to be getting hated as much. I just really feel like this set just came out at the wrong time. And what's interesting is that the enhanced booster boxes recently have been starting to slightly dip up a little bit. You can see they do go back up to like $210, $215 here, which we haven't seen in a very long time, because they were pretty, just going down for the past few months. But that's something, not really, part of the video, but just wanted to show you guys. But going on to the set, right? You look at Journey Together, and I feel like if you look at these cards, right, there's really not that much to complain about. Yeah, I know there's a couple cards in here that aren't, the most, popular things ever that some people don't really like these gold cards. People have criticized, like, the way these look or whatever. But other than that, like, you look at the artworks, the Lily's Clefairy, right, Zoroark, Bellibolt, all these artworks, and even just the IRs, like the Articuno, the Wailord, I feel like the artworks are really nice in this set. And granted, it's not a big set, but we've seen in the past how that doesn't really matter that much, because there's been examples of sets performing extremely well long term, and even short term. So first here we have Stellar Crown. So Stellar Crown right now is a little bit more expensive than Journey Together, and it's still a relatively new set. I mean, this is the 7th main set just before Surging Spark, so it's not like old or anything. And this still is pretty expensive. It's $215, but nobody really hates on this set. But I think it's because it came out during a time where it wasn't very popular. As you can see here, it was like $100 when it was released, and it just gradually grew with every other box. And I think that's why it hasn't gotten like all this negative sentiment that, oh, Stellar Crown's a trash set, and this set's not going to perform. I think it's just because it came out when it was cheap, and now it's just as expensive as Journey, but it didn't come out the gate as expensive. So I feel like there really isn't that much negative sentiment around Stellar in that way. But Stellar Crown, when you look at this set, yeah, it has a couple of starters that I've talked about of why this set would have probably performed fine, because it has popular Pokemon. But other than that, you look at the other cards, there's really nothing. It's really just these couple of starters, and that's it. And it's performed pretty well. Granted, obviously started at $100, and now it's at like $215. Journey Together started at like $230, now it's at like around $200. So it's a little bit of a different case there, but it just shows that it still will grow over time. Even this was starting at $100 and now it's at $200. I feel still like Journey Together, coming out at this price point, it's not going to see obviously the same growth as Stellar Crown, but it just shows that over time people will just adjust, and if no reprints come, which Stellar Crown hasn't, they will go up. And like I said, even if the enhanced feature still gets reprinted, prices may drop, but I still think that buying right now at $200, which is, if you think about it relatively speaking, it's only $40 above MSRP, which is what, like almost just $1 per pack. I feel like it's not the worst thing ever. And like I said, you can buy these locally for closer to MSRP. Like I've seen like 180 and under, so I think it's still very possible to get these close to MSRP. And if in that way, if you're buying this box at almost MSRP, and people right now want to buy stuff at MSRP, I feel like Journey Together could be a great pickup. Now Obsidian Flames, Obsidian Flames, I feel like it could be argued that it's a Charizard set, which is why it's performed well. But this came out the gate really dirt cheap. Like I remember you could have bought these in like the 80s, and Obsidian Flames, at the time, it didn't matter that it was a Charizard set, right? It was just no one cared for it. It was like just another set that just was seemed to be as a trash set. But you move on to now. Obviously, Obsidian Flames is a bit older than Stellar, but it performed extremely well. It's $240. Now, when you look at Obsidian, it's even cheaper than Stellar Crown. And both of these sets I should mention are both very small sets. In Obsidian Flames, you look at the cards and you can see just how cheap this set is. But still, it's performed fine over time. And this set is, just as comparable to Journey Together because they're both pretty small. And I feel like if you look at these two sets and how they performed, and seemingly there isn't that much hate for these sets, and you look at a set like Journey Together, I feel like it's just overhated for no reason. And if this came out at the same time as these sets, like Stellar or Obsidian, where the hype really wasn't there and there was other sets to compare to, I feel like Journey Together wouldn't have all this negativity, people saying it's absolutely trash. Because the people that have said that, Journey Together is absolutely trash probably don't say that, Stellar or Obsidian are like the worst sets ever, because it just didn't come out in the same time. But I truly believe that Journey Together, in my opinion, are better sets than these two. Stellar, I think, is better than that, because I think the Clefairy and all these other cards are just stronger. I mean, you can look at the price points. Yeah, these cards just aren't as popular. But Obsidian Flames could be argued because of the Charizard. But if you look at the rest of the set, yeah, I mean, even the Charizard, like the artwork, I just feel like Journey Together, even though it's not a Charizard, it doesn't have those super popular Pokemon. I feel like just over time, these artworks will become more liked, and I just feel like it's gonna take time for people to really look at this set and be like, wow, this set's pretty good. And just you look at the IRs too, that Reshiram, I just feel like the set is overhated for no reason, and I feel like over time, especially when this gets a little bit older, I do feel that people will adjust and look at this differently. But it's just because we've had recently really good sets come out like Prismatic and Destined Rivals. So that's all I want to talk about. I still believe Journey Together is underrated. I haven't sold a single one of my booster boxes. I'm holding on, especially because of the big thing. If the enhanced feature doesn't get reprinted, this set is definitely going to go up a lot, specifically the enhanced booster boxes, and it's going to be talked about. And even regardless of that, like I said, this is the only booster box in Scarlet and Violet that has this box topper. And over time, when this gets out of print, it's going to be looked at differently because it's going to be the only box with this feature. So that's all I want to say. Journey Together, I feel like, is overhated. There's other sets I could probably compare this to, but they're not as relevant as comparisons. You could maybe compare this to Paradox. You can maybe compare this to Scarlet and Violet Base, but those are a little bit harder to compare to. Scarlet and Violet Base is older. Paradox is a little bit of a deeper set, I guess you could say. It's a little bit there's more cards in there that I think people like. But Journey Together, I think when you compare it to Stellar and Obsidian, I feel like it just makes an argument that over time these sets perform fine. It's just this has come out in a different time. But that's all I want to say here with Journey Together. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.